Welcome back for part 2 of our episode with Kim Rankin. I'm Laura Hayes.
And I'm Cheryl Livingston.
We just wanted to share a couple of quick fun finds with you before we get going with part 2. Cheryl, what you got for us this week?
Well, I have heard Kim speak on other times. Like I said, I'm a groupie. And she has mentioned how her and her husband, Rich, try really, really hard to be actively involved in, modeling on Nathaniel's device. And she mentioned calendars that she was taking advantage of. She said she puts them on the refrigerator. So if it's on the refrigerator, it must be important. And she was talking about Rachel Langley has developed some calendars for core word of the day. Now we've shared calendars and we've got lots of calendars. This one's a little different in the fact that every day, and Kim mentioned in this interview that I saw her do about, well, what if I don't get to a day? And Rachel was like, it's okay. Anytime you can just be more cognizant of a word, then you're going to probably use it throughout the day. So let me show you what that looks like.
All right. That interview is a free interview that she has posted both on her Instagram and Facebook group. So if you guys follow Hold My Words, then you can access that full interview. But this is like Cheryl said, this is a different take on how we can integrate core language throughout the days and the calendars as reminders.
So this is her January, and it's not year specific. So I think, this is actually a year ago, but it's okay. You fill in the numbers, so you can make it be whatever year you want it to be. But I just love how she's got little graphics that go with it, and she's trying to actually give us an not only a word, but a situation. So, this like as far as freeze dance, play some music and dance, stop when the music stops. So the word is stop, but we're doing it while we're dancing. So, wear something silly, big glasses or a funny hat, and ask, well, it looks different. So different is the word we're emphasizing, but she gave us a little bit of a, little push on how we could do it. So I love these. I think they're so good. So she has one for every month. And here are the words that she's working on throughout the month. So really cool.
Love it. Super fun find, and definitely a resource for families.
Yeah. I got this through practicalaac.org. And then I just search for core word calendars. I'm thinking, Laura, I'm going to put a folder together on our site, our AAC site for SSD, and pull these all together. So it could just be one grab real quick. So I will work on that. So when you guys are looking for this, we'll have it available.
And we can put the link directly to this in our episode notes as well. So we'll have it in both places. But know that you can always go to our Google site where we house all of our resources for implementation, as well as the podcast episodes. Mm-hmm. My fun find is similar in the sense that it's also going to be something you can share with parents. We've shared it out a few times within our district, but if you're listening, there is a local AAC support group that is run by St. Louis ARC through another parent of one of our students, and her name is Julie Tompkins. And she's the family navigator at St. Louis ARC. So Kim is a fairly regular attendee as well. So you might see her at one of those meetings. But it's a really great resource. They have circulating topics similar to our podcast where parents can just reach out and try to learn something new, or just touch base with other parents about their children that are using AAC. So if you want more information, you can go to the website. It's SLARC.org, and then it's under programs, family support groups. Again, I'll put the direct link in there, but you can also call Julie and get the information about the next one. They run them anywhere, I think around quarterly is.
I was thinking it was quarterly, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think the next one should be around April. They've been, with COVID, it's been virtual, so I'm not sure exactly what that will look like, but just, reach out to Julie and get signed up, because it's one of those things. It's any support group. When you can make it, you can make it, and when you can't, you can't, and that's okay.
And maybe virtual is even actually easier for some of our families than trying to physically get someplace. And again, that's the whole idea of reaching out to others who definitely understand what your world is like and how you can share information and help each other.
Yeah. So her phone number is 314-817-2269. Again, 314-817-2269. 2269. And her information and her email is also on us and the St. Louis ARC website. So feel free to reach out if you're interested or have a family member that you think might benefit from that. I know that they would love to have you. And speaking of family and AAC at home, we just want to give you the rest of our interview with Kim and all the rest of her incredible wisdom and knowledge on the subject matter. So here is Kim with part 2 of AAC at home. Speaking of Hold My Words and kind of your journey and experience with that, what inspired you to share your journey? And you know, now you mentioned too, you've got these new grace-filled AAC episodes and Patreon supports. What does that look like? Kind of tell me your journey with that.
Okay, so in August of 2015, Nathaniel had a 1-week evaluation at Cincinnati Children's Hospital. And that was for his airway, just to see like what could we do medically for him. And my mom at the time, so I'm from Ohio originally, and my mom was wanting to share all of my Facebook posts about Nathaniel's medical stuff with her friends. But none of her friends could see it. Like, she would share it, but none of her friends could see it because I wasn't friends with her friends. And so I started getting like 100 in one day friend requests from all my mom's friends. And so we had to have a hard conversation, and I was like, Mom, I'm not going to be friends with all of your friends, right? And so she was just, you know, she was very motherly about it. She wanted the right to share all this information with her people. So I started Hold My Words on a car trip on the way home from visiting her. To
things our mothers make us do. I love this.
Yes. So then I said to her, what gets put on Hold My Words, you can share. It's a public page. You can share. It'll show up on your wall. Your friends will be able to see it. What is on my personal Facebook page, you're not allowed to share. She was like taking pictures of my posts and sharing the picture. Like, I mean, it was crazy.
Oh, it's so funny. It's such a mom thing to do, though. You know, they want to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's her grandson. She loved them so much. So anyway, Hold My Words started so that my mom would quit sharing my personal Facebook posts.
Gosh, I love it.
And for probably the first couple years, it was really just it was a very small page. It was very focused on kind of Nathaniel medically, because at that point he wasn't medically stable. And on AAC, in the sense that surgery that we started that process in August, and then in February he had the surgery that basically rendered his vocal cords, you know, gone forever kind of thing. And so that process of making that decision to have that surgery, and then we had it, I think that was when the focus turned more towards AAC and how this surgery eliminated the opportunity for verbal speech ever. And that kind of shaped the fact that the page was going to be more about AAC. So, and then, you know, a few people shared things, and like you kind of turn around and you wake up and you're like, gosh, we have a lot of followers on this page. So it's no longer my mom's friends.
Right, because they're not Facebook friending requesting you at this point. They just sign up.
Exactly. So, so that started there. The Patreon is actually an interesting thing. So I had wanted to do some videos. I had been encouraged to kind of move away from writing and into the video world. Which is not comfortable for me. It's not natural. It's not a natural thing for me to do a video. But I thought, let's try this. And so just trying to figure out how to release those. I mean, we do have some costs in creating them. We have a videographer that works with me on that. And so just felt like Patreon was sort of an opportunity to kind of take that larger Hold My Words community and make it smaller, make some things available to that community that wasn't going to be available, you know, to the at-large Hold My Words community for free. Interestingly, web hosting that I do my kimrankin.com website at. I use Squarespace for that. And just in the last month, they have created a members only page, or members only availability. So I can have a member area connected to kimrankin.com that would, we're in the transition period of moving content from Patreon to that members only site on kimrankin.com. So probably by the 1st of January, you said this was going to air in 2021. Probably by then, by the time we air, all my content will be at kimrankin.com. And there will be these videos, these Filled AAC videos will be available at kimrankin.com versus at Patreon. And I'll close down the Patreon site at that point.
Okay, that's great to know. So if someone is interested in looking at more of those videos, can you give us a few examples of something they might find there? And then obviously they can go to kimrankin.com to check out more.
Sure. So it currently is going to be 5 episodes. 4 of them are done. I'm working on the 5th one right now. I'm thinking at this point it probably will be just limited to those 5 because I feel like I've sort of encompassed like everything we do in these 5 videos. So the episodes have ranged from, like I was saying, having an AAC tool in every room, some of my tips for that, to, getting the family involved and how have we processed getting Rich's involvement and what does that look like to have a dad involved. Well, the one that I am sort of the most proud about is the fact that when I talk about how AAC takes time. And I think it's one thing that unless you live like an AAC life 24/7, you just don't really fully understand the time investment that families have to make in order to model and have that device with them all the time. And so I talk about that, and I talk about strategies that we use in our home for just balancing that time. Like sometimes you just have to get a task done, and sometimes you do have the time to incorporate modeling and stuff. So I really like that episode. So yeah, and then this 5th one was just about my process of how do I pick my core words or core and fringe words that I'm going to work on? What does that look like? How do I go about that? So
planning, love it. And going back to the videos, I love that you're making more videos and highlighting your dynamic family life, but don't stop writing. You're such a fantastic writer. I was going back and reading your story about how you met Rich today, and I was like, oh, this is such a good story. So you have such a gift for that as well. So don't stop that either.
Well, thank you. And I think it'll be really nice to have all the content in one page. It'll actually probably, when I was looking at this member only option on Squarespace, I was like, oh my gosh, I have not like posted a blog post in months. Like, so having it all together, it'll help me, decide, is this a topic better for a video or writing, and just putting it out there. So
for sure. So thinking about your journey, what, a lot of families describe to us and staff too, just these pitfalls of frustration or difficulties in their journey, and how that can change at different times. What kind of pitfalls or difficulties have you faced, maybe now or historically?
Right. So I would say the biggest one for Rich and I is the time factor. And, I think there's times, like I said, that you just have to get something done. The story that comes to mind is Rich needed to change the tire on one of the cars because it was running flat, and he wanted to, fix the hole or look for a hole or whatever. And they left Nathaniel's words inside, and I grabbed him and ran outside and said, oh, here's his words. And, he kind of looked at me in this disgusted expression, like, well, do you want me to work on this tire, or do you want me to work on language? Like, it was just this very pointed moment where he was like, I can't do both. I can't accomplish this task of changing the tire and helping Nathaniel understand, like, Nathaniel's really into cars, and so changing the tire was a big thing, and he's like, there's tools, there's dangerous tools, there's all this stuff, and I can't do all of that and the device. And just, where he is in his own skills as a language partner, that felt overwhelming to him. And so I think just balancing that, like developing our own skills to multitask those things. And Laura, have you seen that video of the grandma trying to cook with the 2-year-old? Like, and he keeps,
oh my gosh, yes.
Right. Like, I mean, you develop this skill of like making brownies and using AAC and keeping their hands out of the batter. Like, that might be just way too overwhelming for a mom who's just a month into using AAC. Whereas like, I can do that easily now, 8 years later, you know, kind of thing. So I think just the time, the developing our skills, the giving ourselves the grace, which is why I called my series Filled AAC, like giving ourselves the grace that this is a lifelong journey. Yeah, I think those are some of the things that we have struggled with.
Oh, that video you're referencing is this grandma who, God love her, she's trying to bake, I don't know if it's brownies or cookies with her 2-year-old, and like it starts really sweet, and by 20 seconds in, the kid has his hands in his mouth and then back in, and like she's just trying to add ingredients and go with the flow. And I want to say she's sharing it maybe with the mom or someone. She's trying to like share this video, and oh, God love her. I would not eat those brownies. I hope they threw them out or let him have all of them. I don't know. She sounds like a typical grandma. But thinking about those pitfalls, I think that you bring up such good points, because I think that people feel like they get stuck in the timing and just even, again, it's things that are applicable at home are also applicable at school. One of the number one things we hear is just, we don't have time. Like, we're so busy. We're trying to get all of this stuff done. And we've got these other manipulatives. The big one right now is because of COVID, like, they all have to have their own materials and their own space because they have to stay 6 feet apart. But then you have the device, and then you have the materials. And then if they have an academic support or tool, then they have that on their desk too. And it's, how do you divide as a kid, how do you divide your attention? Some adults can't divide their attention, let alone these kids, between all of this and a communication partner. So you're trying to get all of this done. You're trying to take data, and then you're trying to model. Right. It's hard. It's really, really hard.
I remember one time in a session, she was doing something and she was, encouraging Nathaniel to stop the activity, which it was a very engaging activity. He loved it. I don't even remember what it was now. But then like she wanted to pause and turn his attention to the device to talk about it, and then go back to the activity and do this, like you say, this back and forth thing. And like she would put her hands over it and he would get so frustrated. And, it was frustrating for me to watch him like, experience this. And I was like, can't he just do the activity and maybe talk about it later? And she was like, no, like he has to learn this skill of, pausing, talking. Like there's no other way for him to talk about it. Like he doesn't, because of his disability, he doesn't have the freedom that a speaking person does to talk while you're doing it. And so he's got to navigate through this frustration of, I really want this car to go on this little track or whatever it was at the time, but I'm going to hold that down. I'm going to suppress that to use my device and then come back to the activity, and it was a learning moment for me to watch them work together, to just realize how much we're asking of him, and yet and the skills he has to have to navigate an activity while he's talking. And then to realize that balance of, he's a kid, let him experience it, find those natural pauses. It takes so much, I don't want to say intuition on the parent, but you just got to kind of go with your gut sometimes. And she was doing that so beautifully, of knowing okay, he's sort of pulling back a little bit from the toy. Now let's talk. And, just balancing this. It's an art. I guess that's what I want to say. It's an art. Intervention is an art.
Right. Well, and we know when we think about language development too, and cognition, right? When you're learning language and you have those early cognitive skills, you don't talk about things remotely. You talk about them while you're doing them. And so we have to, if we don't, sometimes we try to avoid the messy things. That we're not the OTs of the world. We try to avoid the messy things so that we can at least go back and forth with devices. But the cognitive piece is so important, because yes, he's again a typical boy who wants to be playing and engaging with the activity. My son is the exact same way. If I try to stop him and ask him questions about an activity, because again, I'm a therapist, so I'm therapizing my child. I'm going to use your word, therapizing my child. And yet he doesn't want to talk to me. He's like, I'm invested in this, Mom. I will talk to you when I want to talk to you. So finding those moments and it's an art form, being natural at it. You have to just, when in doubt, I think that's when it's important. If you're seeing that frustration, just go back to the modeling, take all the demands off and just go back to, well, I'm just going to model in this activity, especially if it's new and really exciting, and see what comes.
Yeah, but to your point of at school, like I learned so much by watching, like she had that art. And so, just anyone who's, whether it's a parent or an aide or a teacher or whatever, being able to watch someone else do this beautifully, like, like I had those opportunities, it just increased my learning, and that would be, probably help others too, I guess.
Yeah. So if you could go back all the way back to the beginning, if you can remember that far, what, we have so many families that are just starting their journey, or they're really feeling stuck at the beginning of the journey. What kind of advice would you give yourself or these new, the new learners of AAC?
Right. So I think I have a much better understanding now of the fact that AAC life for us is going to be a marathon. Like we're not going to graduate. Like there's nothing that we're trying to achieve that then we can say we're done. Like Nathaniel notoriously forgets where the word different is. And so I think we have worked on the word different for years, and we still, he'll put his hands up like, I don't know. And, it's just a marathon. It just keeps going, month after month, year after year kind of thing. And that can sound so discouraging, but I think what I would have told myself is recognize that and give yourself the wiggle room, to take the breaks, to make the mistakes, to just to say like, okay, I modeled 3 times today. And for the next week, Christmas week, my goal is to model 3 times a day. And I'm just going to give myself the freedom to cut it back to that level, and then we'll pick up again in January. And so just having sort of that long-term view, I think, was something that I didn't have, and it created a great deal of internal frustration that I felt like I wasn't meeting a benchmark that I had hoped to meet. And for a type A mom, that like if you're not meeting the benchmark, the reaction is to do nothing, I think. And so just having small goals, meeting those small goals, keep going. Remember, it's like running a marathon every year, kind of thing.
Well, we talk about that with our staff though too. Kim, we say, because a fair few amount of SLPs and teachers are type A as well, and thinking about how long it takes to learn language, sometimes, because we have such great resources within SSD, they say, well, this device isn't working, or they're stimming on it, and this is not going to work, because the data doesn't show that in our short little trial of 2 months. And it's like, but take it back and just think of it as a marathon, knowing that we're just going to keep going. And this kid, I had one kid one time who, he was in elementary school, and I knew the system was the right system for him, but he was a stimmer. He was a kiddo that just didn't show what he knew right away. And it took 2 years. He finally moved up to the middle school, and the middle school team like really just immersed modeling and language throughout his whole day. And sure enough, he started using 2-word phrases within 3 months. But he went from nothing to, I'm now functionally using this for 2-word phrases. So it was there the whole time. He was just needing that immersion and that exposure.
Mm-hmm.
I think so many kids need that opportunity to have the long-term marathon, as you called it, for success.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Okay. So that was the beginning. What are you guys focused on now? What is your goals, for Nathaniel and for yourself?
Right. So we had, like I said, we did the SLU therapy recently, and they use the DAGG-II. Are you familiar with the DAGG-II? So
yes, we talk about that. Oh, really? It was okay. But I think you had done the AAC profile in the past, correct, with Rebecca?
Correct.
So very similar in the sense that you're still using Janice Light's 4 competencies.
Yeah. So that was insightful. Nathaniel is, let's see, kind of halfway between context dependent and transitional, which was it was really good for me to get language around like where he is, where that stage. That was helpful for me. So kind of one of the things that we're working on for him is to for me to back off a little bit in areas that I can. When he's using his device spontaneously and it's not making sense to somebody else, like I need to sort of let that communication fail and let him be motivated to like fill in, you know, so it's not so context dependent all the time. So here's a case in point. We were at DePere Park, and they have at different little places, this week, at different places they have the tracks of animals, like they have a raccoon in the concrete, and they have turkey tracks in the concrete. So we found one, and I wasn't sure if it was a turkey or what it was, and so we took a picture of it. And my husband at his work, there's a lot of wild turkeys on the grounds of the complex he works at. And so I said, well, let's show this to Dad and see if it is, you know, a turkey. I think it's a turkey, I'm not sure. And so that night at dinner, Nathaniel remembered, and he said something like park, turkey. I think he used the word footprint, which was really weird, but it was applicable, like park, turkey, footprint, something else. And then he grabbed my phone to get a picture, but I didn't realize that he wanted my phone to get the picture. I just thought he wanted my phone. So I took my phone away, and then he said, Dad. And so he was trying to communicate this whole thing. Like he's trying to ask Dad this question. Like he wants to show him the picture. Is this a turkey footprint? And like just letting that sort of fail, that like he's using all these nouns, but he's not like really asking a question. It's super hard for me. I want to fill in the gaps. I want to translate for him. And, you know, eventually we figured it out. He did say phone picture. And so then I realized, you know, that he wants to show Dad. And so then they navigated it through. They figured out that he was asking, you know, is this a turkey footprint? But after years and years and years of like helping him communicate, it's very hard for me to back off and like let his communication struggle, if that makes any sense. So that's what we're working on directly with him. For me personally, I really enjoyed the opportunities I've had to talk to SLPs in their master programs. So working directly with the students at SLU every week was kind of fun. It was like hard sometimes for me to like stay out of the picture and not like jump in. I am a teacher at heart. Like I want
a teacher and a mom. Like, I mean, you're telling me that story and I'm like, I would want to do the same thing as a mom. And I was telling someone in a different interview how I realized, you know, the therapist in me, I teach the prompting class, Kim. Like I am the person that's like, don't over prompt. And I realized one day I'm like, I'm over prompting my child. Like I'm in there going, this is what you need to say. Like you need to use your manners. Say, please, mommy, can I have a cup? And then I'm like, why isn't he saying it on his own? It's the same thing. We just want to help. We want to fill it in. But yeah, for the betterment of their growth, we have to pause. So, but I think again, those students at the clinic it's definitely a mutual learning opportunity, I think.
Yeah, I had opportunity to talk to the students at Wayne State in Michigan that are taking their AAC class. And then next week, I'm going to actually speak to the University of Iowa, the students in their AAC class there. I'm going to be a guest speaker. So I think the distance learning through Zoom that all the professors are having to do has kind of opened up some fun opportunities for me. To take my love of teaching and now this love of AAC that I came into by chance, and you know, help shape the community a little bit or contribute to the community.
Yeah. Well, and the DAGG, I realized I forgot to mention. So the DAGG, we've mentioned in a previous episode, but it stands for Dynamic Assessment for Goals Grid, Alternative Dynamic Assessment of Goals Grid. And it's from Toby Dynavox originally, but it's a progression that's really great for progress monitoring and just kind of helping determine what your goals in the moment and what your forward-thinking goals might be in the areas that reference Janet Slights for communicative competencies, including strategic, operational, social, and linguistic. And I would imagine, based off of that, was there an area that he was higher in than others?
I don't remember. 2 he was very high in, and 2 he was still in the context dependent. Nathaniel's grammar is like we still get words out of order. He often will put his subject first. He like uses the ASL grammar instead of English grammar. So he'll put his subject first, which I think in some ways is brilliant. Like he wants to put his subject out there to get the cooperation of his communication partner to like, okay, this is what we're going to talk about. And, you know, then there's a little more cooperation or support.
Context, yeah.
Yeah, and interestingly, when I go to the laryngectomy support group meetings in the area, like because his anatomy now is that of a laryngectomy, I've sort of stepped into that adult world as well, in anticipation of this being a lifelong medical situation for Nathaniel and wanting to know what is ahead of us and learning from these adults who had their voice and then lost it. What that looks like, what life looks like for them. But I see them do the same thing at their support group meetings. They will put the subject out there and give a little bit of piece of what, and then different people support and fill in, because speaking with their TEP is so breath controlled. Like sometimes they run out of air and another person will like finish their sentences for them. It's just this amazing dance again of communicator and you know, communication partner watching these adults do it who have all the language stuff done, right? And then watching them still how much they support each other of getting the message out. It has just been an amazing like thing to watch, then to incorporate with Nathaniel of, you know, he puts the subject out there, maybe not because he doesn't understand English grammar, but maybe because he knows people don't tend to give him a lot of time. And if he doesn't get something important out fast, he might lose the person who's listening to him, you know? And sometimes I think it's just really prudent of him, or not, that's not a good word. Yeah, I don't know. It's
like it's a strategy, and so that's what when you're talking about those competencies. I mean, he's so social, so I was like, he's got to be high in social, and then his strategic competency that he uses as adaptive and alternative measures, and just trying to figure out all these components of discourse, I think is very, very high. I mean, that's a huge strategy that I think is to his benefit. But he's a 1 in a million kid, so it's thinking of he's setting the new bar for what it looks like, you know, with the iPad only came out in 2011, you know, right close to it when he was born. So I think that he is, as much as you guys follow evidence-based practice and his language is corresponding with that, I also think that he is just his own model for what can be done in the realm of AAC. Yeah. So I could talk to you all day, but I know you have Nathaniel at home and we've got a busy day ahead. So I always ask all my interviewees, what has been your favorite AAC moment so far? Again, it could be with you and your learning experience, or it could just be with Nathaniel.
Yeah, that's hard, Laura. There are so many. So we talked about doing this interview and I had one picked out, and then like since then, like 3 more of like, oh no, this is my favorite, or oh no, this is my favorite. But yesterday something happened that was something that I had thought about sharing. And it happens repeatedly, and it just feels like, oh, okay, it's working. We'd run some errands and we got home, and my husband was out blowing leaves with the leaf blower. And so Nathaniel jumped out of the car and ran in front of the car to go talk to my husband. It was the first time he'd seen him, you know, since work. He got off work and like got about halfway there and turned around and came back to the car and got his device and took off running again. And it was just like, I heard the leaf blower. There was no way that my husband had said, go get your words. You know, like he hadn't prompted him to say that, to do that. And I hadn't prompted him. I was still getting groceries and stuff out of the car. And just knowing like he thought of that, like he of his own was like, I need my words. I'm going to run back and get them. I think every time I see him do that, it just makes me feel like this is working, like we're there. And honestly, that ownership of his device was pretty slow coming. And so it, maybe because I hold his words so much, hold my words, I was so willing to carry them all the time. But it just is really beautiful to see, like, he's taking this, like, this is his thing now too, not just my thing that I'm doing for him, but it's his. So I think that's probably my favorite moment when I see that happen. It was really great.
Yeah. Well, he has so many wonderful things, and you've shared so many stories. So I know if listeners, if you've enjoyed this, I know I have, but if you've enjoyed listening to Kim and listening to this interview, definitely go on Hold My Words. She and her website as well. Consider being a Patreon, because she is a wonderful support and has, like I mentioned, just the gift of writing, and her stories are wonderful. My personal favorite recently was the story about your guys' experience riding on, I think it was Katy Trail, right? Was it Katy or Grants? Okay. So riding on a local trail and just using a bell to gain attention so that when he needed to say something, he could gain your attention. And we just learned, and Cheryl Livingston and I have coined the phrase soft tech instead of low tech, because low tech, people consider that could be something lower or substandard, whereas soft tech, it's like, oh, this is just another alternative that supports our growth in the area of AAC. So considering a bell to be soft tech, it's so simple and it works beautifully. And that whole story was just, I just loved it.
Yeah, I think that there's so many things that I have learned, like I was saying, from the laryngectomy community. I went to their international conference a few years ago, and there was a gentleman that had a little, it was like a shaker thing that giggled or like laughed. I don't know how, but it had like an air thing in there that when you shook it, it made the sound of laughter. And so sitting around the table, there was some speaking people and there was some laryngectomies there. And whenever he wanted to laugh, he would pick up this shaker and he would shake it as like his contribution to, like, I found that funny. That's his way of saying that was funny, kind of. And I was at, so the bell, when you mentioned the bell, it reminded me, like, that was one of our, like, a shaker giggle, but a fart machine. So Target had this little round for $3, a fart machine that had like 6 farts on it. Oh my gosh, does Nathaniel love that, because he can't do those sounds that boys make with their mouth, right? And so, like, he'll carry that thing around. And use it all the time, So again, just soft tech things that are just, that any kid loves to have. Our AAC users can use them, especially to be funny and contribute. So
it's so funny you mentioned the farts. I was literally just yesterday talking on older devices. They used to have a button, and when you hit the button, it would make fart noises. And I kid you not, Kim, every time we did an evaluation with a little boy, that page was way deep into the device, and every time they managed to get to that page to make fart noises, and so motivating. So maybe we need like an app or something. Maybe we need to work on this development for all of our boys who just want to make ridiculous noises. Oh, I love it. This has been so insightful, as always. You are just wonderful, and I look forward to everything that you are going to move over to your site, and just all the continued growth with Nathaniel, and as he continues on his journey and your journey as well. So thank you. Thank you for your time today. If anybody wants to reach out or they have questions, what's the best way to reach you?
I'm pretty sure through the kimrankin.com, you can find my email address. So that's usually the best way. Or, the Facebook page, sending me a message through Facebook works as well. So
perfect. Okay. Well, this is, again, Laura Hayes from AAC Innovations, thanking Kim for her time, and we'll be showing some other resources here shortly, but take a listen and check out her things when you have time, folks. We appreciate it. Thanks, Kim.
Thank you.
Hi guys, it's Laura, And since we're talking about AAC at home this week, I just wanted to kind of create and show you a few simple things that you can use with your families and your kiddos using AAC at home. Obviously, we can use these supports at school as well to practice things that we do regularly at home. But we wanted to show you guys a few things that are very simple, very cost-friendly, and support visuals and AAC learning at home. So thinking about our routines at home, we broke it down into the things that most of our kiddos do every day. So the first one is just that morning routine. So of course I picked a green overlay, but this is just a green calendar overlay that you might use for your morning time. And you can see I went ahead and I just put a few things that we might do for a visual schedule in that morning time routine. And then what's nice about this is just a pocket calendar from the dollar store. But when the student or the user does the routine, you can highlight it or model it on their device. And then you can just move it over to the right side of the pocket calendar to show them that they're done. You could even put in a check mark or something for the background over here just to show them, again, that's completed. But that helps make that language visible, gives them some consistency with their morning routine, and also gives them visuals that you can be modeling on their device as they move throughout that routine. Another thing that you can do is when the students are getting dressed, you can have some visuals so that they can have a little bit of some choice making within that part of their day. So for this one, I just, again, dollar store, we got the cookie baking sheets, and you can put magnets on the back of your visuals. These visuals I just pulled from one of our editing softwares, and I used the capture feature to put it into a Word doc and print them out. But once you show it to your kiddo, again, for your kiddo, I just use some Boardmaker online generic pictures, but ideally you would want to use a picture of your child or put their face on it, but I just use generics for the purpose of this activity. And they can choose. So I organized it by body part. So are we wearing pants or jeans or shorts today? And then when they pick, you can simply move it over and pull out their shorts. Then maybe they want, it's a really hot day, I'm pretending that it's really hot, so they also want a shirt. And they can pick out their shirt. If you're going to work on descriptors, you could also have them choose the color of their shirt. If you're picking out their shirt, they could comment on it, good or bad. Then again, we got our shoes, things we wear on our feet down here at the bottom. And then if you, again, specialty items, don't forget your hat. It's going to be our glasses because it's going to be sunny outside. So now we've picked our things. On the back, I put things that might be seasonal or something we might not wear. So you can always put those on the back because, again, this cookie sheet is magnetized. So a nice quick way to give your kiddo some choices, but make it a little bit more fun and make them an active participant. Again, if you're using a speech generating device, you can be modeling what they select and or what their choices are as you move through that part of the routine. So that's that. And note too that any of these activities I'm showing you, if your kiddo really likes them, feel free to expand them to other routines. That these are just different formats that I've created for the purposes of showing you. But if they really like the magnetized movable features of the getting dressed activity / routine, then feel free to make that for all of their routines. Then next you might have some breakfast. So what we did here is we just created a little mealtime overlay. So their bowl can go in here or their cup of whatever they're eating, and then you can talk about some of the things that you might comment on during that activity. And then once they get back, like let's say they go out and they have their day, or once they get back, most of us have a routine for bath time, right? So cleaning up, showering, grooming, all of those things. So what we did for that, you can do this with any flotation device that you find. But again, a cheapy
this is an old Ninja Turtle one, but a cheapy little kickboard that floats. And so I just went ahead and I taped a laminated low-tech board on there, because again, our high-tech devices and waters don't mix. So we want to be using low-tech in those situations. So you can also post this on your bathtub, shower area. And again, it doesn't have to be the full board. You can, if your student has a high-tech device with only 20 symbols showing, take a screenshot, print it out, laminate it. That can be their board. You can also just have it be single symbols. So if you wanted to do something like help, on by the faucet, like those can all be play in the water. Those can all be things that you just highlight one individual symbol at a time. Then most kids these days with technology also really enjoy watching some form of media like TV or YouTube. So we also, for that one, we went ahead and just did a quick first then. So first we watched TV, and then because TV is not the most fun thing to turn off and talk about, we added a little bit of a map here for you. So first we watch TV, then after a show or during a commercial, we talk about it. So anytime there's a break in action, you can have your sentence starter, I think. And then I just made a quick key ring here with descriptors on it. For some of my descriptors, I gave choices. So good, bad, don't like versus like, exciting versus boring, best episode ever, worst episode, especially for those, if you're watching the movie, that's the second in line, so your sequel's not necessarily as good as the first. Yeah. Excellent and terrible. So those are just some word pairs that you can talk about to describe what you're watching and comment on it. And then just other descriptors: annoying, cool, fantastic, my favorite, etc. So I just put those on a quick key ring so that I can kind of keep them around. If it's easier to keep them together, you can key ring this to your sentence strip or your picture support. That's just another way that you can kind of use visuals while also making language visible in your activities throughout the routines that our kiddos are doing at home on a regular basis. We want to keep it simple. We don't want to have to think outside of the box to really make it a lot of work. Incorporate it into what the kiddos are already doing. And then I love literacy. So my kiddo reads every night. For the purposes of reading routines, it's always great because it gives context and language and literacy supports. So what I did for our reading activities, I pulled just 2 books. One you can find off the shelf. These That's Not My series are great. I just pulled That's Not My Fairy, but there's That's Not My Puppy, That's Not My Dragon, all kinds of crazy cool things that have tactile input. So this is just a book you can find at your library or Target or Amazon. And I went ahead and for this one, I symbolated some of the words. So that's not my fairy, not mine. And I did that on every page. So again, you can comment, you can just practice modeling. It doesn't have to, my whole point with this activity is that it doesn't have to be every single word. It can just be the words you want the student to focus on or target on their system. Okay. The other one is a really great series out of Linguist Systems, and a lot of you probably are familiar with the Buddy Bear series, but this one's just yes, no questions. A lot of our kiddos are working on that. So for this one, I went ahead and glossed some of the text so that we're focusing on just the answer that the student might be wanting to target. So for this first page, Buddy Bear wants something shiny. Is it a ring? No, it's not. It's a penny. And so these books are manipulable as well. The back, you can pull these stickers off and put them on the pages. So again, interactive, but I can also use glossing for this text so that I'm giving some more visual supports and a target for the student to be practicing. Okay, those are just 2 quick examples, but you can do them with any books at home. Symbolate or gloss the text or the words that you want the student to target, and make sure you're thinking of the language level the student is at. So you don't have to make every single picture for every single word on there. We really just want to highlight and emphasize, target, especially those core words, core vocabulary. And then the nighttime routine. Hopefully your kiddo's on a nighttime routine, makes things a little bit simpler. But we really like the idea of something that you could put maybe on the frame of a bed, or something that's easily movable. So normally we would grab those pool noodles are really great for this because you can cut them apart and then they're nice and soft. So I didn't have one of those, so I used a poster canister, but you can see I just put some visuals on here of things I might do before I go to bed. The resource that will be up in our episode resources folder also has times on there, but if you don't have specific set times, you don't have to include those on your visual support for your routine, but know that that is also available on there. So alongside the visuals I showed you for all these routines and resources, I will also include some of those word maps we've been doing for all of our AAC activities so that you can have other ideas to model for your core words, as well as for asking questions and commenting and those other pragmatic functions that we really want to expand for our AAC users. So if you have questions, reach out, but that's just some quick ways, and know too that you don't have to do these for you don't have to just start with all 7 of these activities. You can piecemeal like a few of these activities that you know your student or your child is using throughout their day at home. And we'd love to hear from you. So if there's other things that you are doing that or sending home for homework that you know your parents are really enjoying and liking, let us know. We'd love to highlight it. Thanks for listening.
Oh, Laura, that was so good. I just love listening to you guys. Again, Kim's phenomenal. And I love how she's a mom of multiple kids. So it's not just like Nathaniel was the first time she figured this all out as far as being a parent, but he was the first special needs child she's had. And she just makes it so good and so interesting. And I love her writing. If you follow her blog, she just is such, I don't know, her ability to put her thoughts on paper just is so cool.
I told her if she ever wants to write a book, I'm in. I would be her incredible life with her family. It would be, in my opinion, a very good bestseller because it's just so rich and unique.
Yeah, and she could share all kinds of stories about, like I said, if she did all the kids, I'm sure she could.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Off the air, she was telling me some things about some of her other kids, and I just was blown away at how special they all are, and just, the diversity and her experiences.
And how involved everybody is in all kinds of different things. I know the one son is out west, and they've gone to visit, and the horses, and it's just like, oh yeah, no, she just is amazing.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the time that you guys spent together. That was great.
Well, hopefully you all found it just as helpful, and stay tuned. Next week we will be having another interview and some more resources for you. But until then, have a great rest of your week, and hope it's filled with lots of AAC moments. We'll talk to you soon.
See ya.